am I recording? Sweet. All right. So here we go. All right. Once you click this, you click make a copy. Then we are here. So I've set up a very basic format to our spreadsheet. So there's a lot that needs to go into it that we're going to learn how to do. Okay. Your numbers are going to differ from mine. A little bit of the functionality of your iPad is different than what I can do on the computer, just a little bit. So there's a few things that I might do in a way that's a little bit different than you. So if you need me to, let me know, and I can explain how you would do it on your iPad. The house I am buying is for an original value of $527,100. Oops. 527,100. So I'm going to enter that in. You need to put the value of your house in that spot. Okay. Now, we're going to play around with trying to figure out how much down payment we can afford. So let's just say that we were able to afford a $110,000 down payment. Okay. What we want to do is we want to see if this down payment clears the threshold of 20%. That's something we would want to know for our purchasing of a home, because then we can avoid PMI. So we're going to put this, anytime you're doing a formula in a spreadsheet, you're going to start the formula with equals. So we're going to say equals, and we're going to do a very basic formula. Okay. We are going to do B2. So you name your formulas based on the names of the cells. So we're going to do B2. You can just click on it and it goes into your formula. Okay. And then we are going to divide that by B1. So division symbol and then B1. You can click it or you can type in. The cells are named off of the column letter and the row number. So when I say B1, it's column B, row 1. Okay. If I hit that, it's now going to tell me the percentage. I'm pretty sure I formatted this cell for you guys so that it would read as a percentage. But if you didn't know this, there's different ways to make this cell work. I'm not exactly sure what it'll look like on your iPad, but there's ways to format as currency, so it's money, or format as a percent. I have this set up to be formatted as a percent, so it reads nice. Okay. All right. So I'm clear of the 20% I need. So maybe I want to try to figure out what 20% is. There's a couple of different ways I could do that. I could say, let this cell equal this cell times 0.2. I could do that, or I could do that off to the side, or do that in the calculator. What's that? I could do that as well. Yep. But I like to leave this, variable so I can change it. So it does have a formula locked in right now to do this. So if I change the value of my house, suddenly it's a $550,000 house. Now it'll automatically update my down payment to lock it in at 20%. So this cell is right now a dependent cell. It's dependent on what I put in the first cell, where if I go back to my original value, 527,100, and then this is, I manually type in the 105, 420. Now, if I change this number on B1, it's not going to change anything in B2. Does that make sense? Okay. So we kind of want to leave it like that so we can play around with our down payment. All right. But you should have your original value in. You should have your down payment. Okay. This should be set up as a percentage. Honestly, it's going to be really easy to change all these numbers around because what we're doing up here is kind of our legend area. It's like where we're going to put all of our fixed numbers, and then everything that happens on the bottom, we're going to learn how to set up so it auto populates so that you can easily change what's on top, and then it'll make an effect to the whole sheet afterwards. So if you want to use my exact numbers right now, it's not a bad idea because then you can know if you type things in right because your numbers should match my numbers. So you don't need to use your own numbers right now, but you will eventually want to put in your own numbers for this. Okay, so I've got it set up right now like this. Okay, now we're going to get into our loan amount. Our loan amount, so how much money do I need to borrow? How would we figure that out? Yep, so we're just going to do equals original value minus down payment. Hit enter and it'll do the math for us.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was the formula for B3 again?
B3 was just B2 divided by B1. You're just finding a percentage. You're taking the down payment amount divided by the value of the house, and that is the percentage of down payment. So then again, for B4, I'm just doing B1 minus B2. So now if I change my down payment, it's going to change my loan amount. It's going to auto change. So there's only so many things I actually have to type in. And then the spreadsheet will do the rest. Okay. Now, for mortgage payment, this is going to be a bit of an adventure to figure out. Okay. We're going to have to use our amortized loan formula for this. Okay. So I'm going to do it. It's not going to be very nice for the video, but I'm going to do it on the board. It's going to be hard for me to do it anywhere else. So I'm going to calculate my amortized or my loan amount, and we're going to show you like how that would work. So here's my bigger ratio. Sydney, can you pass that to me? So I gotta write down my amortized loan formula, which is P times 1 plus R over M to the N equals R 1 plus R over M to the N minus 1 divided by R over M. Okay, so this formula, we're gonna need this, we're gonna want to know R, right? So we've got to, if we divide both sides by this mess, okay, then we're gonna get this. So I don't really want to go and have to like, figure all this out for my particular problem. We want to try to turn this into a formula in our spreadsheet. That's our goal, is to turn this stuff over here into a formula in our spreadsheet. Okay, before I do that, let's go and look at the other things that we might know. Okay, interest rate, we might know that. Okay, let's say that our interest rate, we're gonna have to leave this as a rate. We can't write it as a percent or it's not gonna work in the formula, because when you plug it into a formula, it's got to be a decimal. So we're gonna say we got a 4.25% interest rate. So we're gonna set that as our APR. Now we're gonna set our length as 30. Annual tax, I'm using these numbers. And again, you might want to use my numbers. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit so it'll make it easier for you to see. And then my annual insurance I'm setting as this. You'll have your own numbers for a lot of these. All right. So here's the scary adventure, is building this formula that's currently up on the board. Okay. So that formula is a big old fraction. So it's a formula, so it starts with equals, always starts with equals. This is the hardest part, so stick with me on it. Okay, it's a formula, so it starts with equals. I'm gonna put parentheses divided by parentheses because I know it's a big fraction. So this kind of sets that up. In the parentheses, wherever we see one of these letters, okay, wherever we see one of these letters, we need to either put in a number if the number is always going to be the same, or we need to call on the cell that will have that variable. Okay, so the P is our principal amount. Okay, so this is the first thing I'm attacking is the P that we see on the board. Okay, that principal amount would be our loan amount. So that's going to be B4. Inside those parentheses, we're going to have 1 plus. It's another fraction. You technically do not need to put them in parentheses, but I'm kind of a parenthesis, like, I'm overly conservative about it. I'll put too many parentheses in, so I don't have not enough. So I'll put another parentheses in there. Like this, okay? When you raise something to the power, you're gonna put to the, okay? And then let's be careful here and keep looking, okay? What is our rate? That's what's gonna be next. So my rate is D1. So I'm gonna be putting in D1. So hold on, B4, and then we're gonna have parentheses. It actually helps if you put in a times symbol before the next set of parentheses. Well, if you look at what I have, like, spreadsheets don't always understand, like, if I put 3 next to parentheses, it means multiply. So if I put that multiply symbol in there, it helps. So I'm going to put that times, and then we're going to put 1 plus. Then we're going to do our rate divided by our N. Okay. Or sorry, our M. What's our M going to be? Is that going to change from problem to problem or no? It's always going to be 12, right? 12 compounds, 12 months, right? Monthly payments. So 12 is always going to be the M there. So we're going to have that. Now this guy here is supposed to be to the nth power. So I'm going to put to the nth power. What is N going to be? Not necessarily 360. 30 times 12, right? But it's 30 because this loan's for 30 years. So it's the length times 12. So I'm going to put D2, the length, times 12. If I do that instead of typing in 30, now I'll make sure that I don't, I can change the length of the loan and see how things change. Otherwise, my formula is going to be locked in on 30 years no matter what. You're never going to get a loan that's not monthly for this. So that's why we can put the 12 in and have that be a set number. Okay, that right there should cover the numerator. Let me make sure I got enough parentheses in there. I think I do. Okay. So now, I just want to make sure I have definitely the right number of parentheses. It does look like it. I feel like there should be a third one, but I don't have it in my old formula. Yeah, I feel like it should look like that. So I think we're good. I'm looking at my old formula for reference just because I don't want to mess it up while showing it. And it doesn't have a third one, but I know there should be a third one there. So we should be good. sometimes, and this happens even with like the best spreadsheeters, like you're gonna mess something up, you're gonna get an error and you'll realize like, oh, one too many parentheses, you do that and you fix it and everything makes sense. We should have a good frame of reference on our stuff. If we put in our numbers and we've already done the math, if our number comes back the same as the number we did when we were doing the worksheet, we know that the formula is working correctly. If not, then we know we have a broken formula, and that happens all the time. You know, there's one of my wife's doing spreadsheeting for her job all the time. I am bringing my wife in when she makes a mistake. That's part of the job, is to realize like, okay, where did the code go wrong? When you're programming something high level, code goes wrong sometimes. Hopefully ours doesn't. All right, so we've covered the top. Now it's time to do the bottom. Okay, so we've got this fresh set of parentheses here on the bottom. Okay, we want, again, on the bottom, there's going to be a whole nother fraction. So I got to be careful here, but I'm going to put a whole nother fraction in. Okay. Now, on the top of that new fraction, there is more parentheses. 1 plus more parentheses for a fraction, r over m. So d1 divided by 12 again. Now you got to be careful. It's nice that Google Sheets does this. It's showing where these parentheses meet. That's the fraction within the parentheses. There's the big parentheses. We know that this needs to be to the nth power. Again, remember, n is the length times 12. And now that whole thing needs to be minus 1. Now I want to check my parentheses because I'm not feeling super good about it. No, this has got to scoot in. See how these parentheses are raised to this power? That's what I want. It is the, oh, did we? Oh, no. Yeah. Let's fix it. So I was right the first time? Yeah. Okay. So we've got this all to that power, minus 1, and then we've got this. So yeah, we're good. This part's right. What's that? Let's check it. Trying to keep things on the screen as much as possible, but honestly, a lot of times when I do this, I do it on the board first. I get my formula and then I put it in. So I'm confusing myself just a tiny bit the way I'm doing this. I know there's a lot of parentheses in this one. Okay, so if we're looking, you're talking about the first one. What's that? Okay, if I'm looking at the first one, this is my P. This is my 1 plus R over M. You're right. This needs to be in parentheses. We're missing one parenthesis there. Yeah. This needs to be here. Which I think that's why we had one more parenthesis than we needed. Now we're good. Yeah. No, this is right. We were just raising the D1 over 12 to the end, but we needed to do the whole thing. You can sit closer if you need to. Oh. Okay. So this is all my numerator here. This is that inside part. This is the power, and then it's all minus 1. So I think we're good. And then all we need to do here on the bottom, finally something easy, is take the rate divided by 12. And theoretically, we should be, I think we're good now. Let's see what I get back. Yep, it's perfect.
Go back, go back.
There's two at the end because one's to close off the R over M and one's to close off the entire denominator.
But I got
I got it.
a.
So there should be three at the
Hold on, I'm gonna turn on the lights. I'm gonna show you how I would do this on the board, and I think that
Okay.
might make it easier for you. Okay, so if I'm looking at this formula, I know that I'm gonna have parentheses for the left side. And then, or for the top, and then I'm gonna have divided by parentheses for the bottom. Let me see if I can try to use as many colors as I can. You see a blue? Everybody see the blue?
There's a blue on your desk.
Is there?
Yeah, but
Sweet, alright. So, you have to do this to get the big fraction, okay? You have to do this to get the big fraction, okay? Now, what was P? P was B4. Okay, I guess I could just leave that one blank. It's really when parentheses come in that you need it, okay? So P was B4, so I have B4, okay? Then, I need to multiply by this. So I'm gonna put times. Then I want parentheses for this. Then that whole thing is gonna be to something, so that needs parentheses. It's gonna be, what's the length cell?
D30 times 12.
D2 times 12. Right? This is, I've taken care of this with this. This is representing this, which could just be 1 plus our fraction again, so we need new parentheses. R is what? D1?
Oh, I got
D1 divided by 12. So you see where that all comes from now, for the numerator?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
not like, no, I understand, it's just hard to.
It is, no, I get it. Are we back to no error?
Yeah, I'm good.
Everybody's
I
good?
did a number, kind of low.
Do you need me to walk you through the bottom, or are we good so far?
I think
Good enough?
I don't know.
Okay. If all of this is the same as me, then this has to be the same as me.
Oh, I've got, that's,
like with no.
Well, let me get mine again.
oh, I've got numbers.
You need to be getting that 2074.41.
But I'm.
Oh, if you're using your numbers, you'll get a different answer.
Oh.
If everything on the top matches everything I have, then you should be good.
Okay, so my fault.
Got it.
Do you want me to put it back up so you can see where it goes wrong?
I don't like spreadsheets.
So if I'm doing the bottom, it's another fraction. So it should look like that. This last fraction is actually pretty easy. It's just. What was R D1? 27 something.
Yeah, 2074 point. Oh, yeah, no, it says it right there. Yeah, okay.
You're good?
Yep.
Okay. So now we've got that. Here's where we are. All right, gotta zoom out a little bit. And we're gonna start building our schedule now. So the numbers at the top are things that we would like to change and update. Some of it's automatically calculated for us, but these are kind of our reference cells. So a lot of times when you're making a high level spreadsheet like this, you have your little legend area or reference area where you make your changes or your key things that are going to get called on all go. So that's what we've got up here is all of our key information that the rest of the sheet's going to be built on. The goal is that everything down here is automated. Okay, that's our goal, is for everything here to be automated. Just so you know, it's way easier on a computer to do this particular thing, but you can't do it on a spread or on the iPad. But I want you to know how I did it so that you can see where all these payments came from. What I did is if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, the spreadsheet's smart enough to know the pattern you're doing. So if you highlight those cells and drag it, there's a way to drag it so it completes the pattern. So that's how I was able to number all this for you. It's really easy on a computer, but it doesn't work good on a iPad. So it's just a really nice trick to know that if you have a pattern, you can just drag the formula down to everything else and it'll continue the pattern. Okay, so next up, we are going to start making our amortization schedule. So we are going to start with our mortgage payment. We know our mortgage payment from up here. Okay, here's how we want to call on it. We do not want to copy that cell. This cell, very important to understand about spreadsheets. This cell is a formula. It's a formula based on the location of all the cells you're calling on. So when they see D1 in this formula, they're looking at the cell that is 1, 2, 3, 4 cells above and 1, 2 cells to the right. They're not thinking of it as D1. They're thinking of locationally where it is. So if you were to copy and paste this formula here, it would be calling on like this cell over here. It'd be calling on weird random cells. So you can't just copy and paste that formula. Instead, there's different options of what you can do. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on the cell. So I'm going to say equals. I don't want to put the number in, like I don't want to type in 2074 or whatever, because then if things change up here, then I got to type things to change them down here. Instead, I want to call on this cell. So I'm going to say equals B5. Okay, now that'll call on that number. However, I am going to be using the same mortgage payment every single month, right? My mortgage payment doesn't change. It's the same amount every month. Look at what happens if I copy and paste this cell. Nothing, right? Except for it says that it's B6 now. So it's actually calling on this cell. Remember what I said? When you copy and paste something, it worries about location. It doesn't worry about the specific cell. So like this is really thinking, oh, call on the cell that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cells above me. Instead, we need to tell it something special to say, no, always call on B5. Even if I copy and paste you, which to make this, we're gonna have to do a ton of copying and pasting. Even if I copy and paste you, I always want you to say this number. Here's how you do it. You go into this cell, and you're going to put a $sign before the B, oops, and before the 5. When you put a $sign next to the name of a cell, it locks either the row or the column. In our case, we locked both. So when I put a $sign behind the B, it's saying always stay in row B, or sorry, column B. If I put a $sign behind 5, it's saying always stay in row 5. If I put a $sign behind both, it's going to say always use B5. So now I can copy this, and it's always going to be the same number all the way to the end. Oops. Okay. And that's my goal. I want this to always be the same number. Okay? So we're gonna have to do that several times. If we call on something from our legend up here, we're gonna have to use dollar signs so we don't lose it. Okay? $B, $5. Okay? Now, taxes and insurance. How much are we going to spend on those? Okay? What we are going to do to figure that out is this is our annual tax. This is our annual insurance. To find the monthly tax and the monthly insurance, every payment is a month, not a year, a month. So to do taxes and insurance, we're going to take the annual amounts and divide by 12. So it's going to look like this. We're going to say equals. Since I'm going to be doing some dividing, I'm going to need some parentheses, your guys' favorite. I'm going to do parentheses, the tax amount divided by 12, plus the insurance amount in parentheses divided by 12. That will take the monthly taxes plus the monthly insurance. Now, do I want that cell to be moving when I copy and paste this formula? No, so we need dollar signs. Around the D for each the D3 and the D4. That will lock to those cells, so we're always calling on those cells no matter where this formula goes. Okay. So we hit enter on that. There's our tax and insurance. Now, I should be able to copy and paste that, and it should be the same amount every single month for the whole duration. Let's just go out to 5 payments right now, and I'll show you how to extend it later. Okay? You guys with me so far and have your sheet updated? Okay. Interest paid. This is a little special. Okay? It's not going to be the same formula for the first month as it is for the other months. Okay? So we're just going to do 1 month right now, and then we'll go on from there. The interest you pay per month is based on how much the remaining balance of the home is. So to start off, it's based on this loan amount. So equals the loan amount, that's your principal. And remember, we have the formula of PRT, simple interest, to calculate this. So it's principal times rate times time. Well, it's going to be, the time period's just going to be 1 month. So the time period's going to be 1. The rate is going to be 1/12 of your annual rate. So we're going to take our principal, or sorry, our loan amount times our rate in parentheses divided by 12, because you're only taking 1/12 of the rate. So B4, you aren't going to be copying this, so we don't need to dollar sign it. So B4 times our rate over 12. There's 2 ways to think about this. You could think of we're doing the 12th of the rate 1 time, or you could think we're doing the entire rate for 1/12 of the time period. Either way you think about it, you end up with this formula where you have something to the 12th, or sorry, divided by 12. Okay. That tells us the amount of interest that we're spending for this month is $1,493.45. As the balance of your loan trickles down, the amount you pay towards interest every month goes down. We've seen this before. Okay. Now, how much is paid on principal? Well, I am just going to take how much I paid for my mortgage, and I'm going to subtract how much I paid that was interest. So out of the $2,000+ I spent for my mortgage this month, I'll put it back up. We're just taking the mortgage payment minus how much of it went towards interest. The rest of it went towards principal.
You need to lock
Just
that up.
open tomorrow.
We don't need to lock it. Yeah, you're gonna have plenty of time to work with it tomorrow. Okay, so we got B12 minus D12, the amount of the mortgage payment minus how much of it went to interest, that's how much goes towards principal. So we spent $580 that went towards principal. All the rest of it just went towards interest. Now, how much is left on the balance of the home? The balance of the home is now going to be equal to, or how much, the balance of the loan is going to be equal to what was the loan amount for minus how much principal did we just pay? So B4 minus E12. Once again, we're not going to be copying this formula, so we do not need to lock anything. We'll stop on that. So we'll hit enter. And now look at our loan. It's down to only $421,000 and 100 extra dollars. Okay. This first payment had to call on some stuff from up above. So that's why we had some things that were locked. That's why we have some formulas we're not going to be able to copy and paste. Starting with month 2, once we do this, we're going to have something that we're going to be able to copy and paste for all of the remaining 359 payments. So month 1, tricky. Month 2, still a little tricky. Every other month is just copying and pasting. So it'll be very easy. Okay. So for mortgage payment, that's always going to be consistent. Tax and insurance, always going to be consistent. Okay. Interest paid. Now, the interest paid is going to be based on the previous month's balance as your new principal. Again, times our rate divided by 12. Now, the rate we want to always be from D1. So I'm going to put dollar signs around that. I'm not going to put dollar signs around this, F12. The reason I'm not going to, this is very important to understand if you're going to understand how the copy and paste works. The reason I'm not putting dollar signs around F12 is because I want this to move. When I go and I copy this into the next cell, I want it to not go off of this balance anymore, but I want it to go off the previous month's balance. So I want it to keep dropping down 1. So if you don't put dollar signs around it, that cell will keep sliding down as you copy and paste. And that's actually what we want to have happen. So I'm not going to put dollar signs around the F12. I'm only going to put them around the D1. Okay. So you see, we spent a little bit less on interest this month because our balance was a little bit lower. Okay. Paid on principal. Again, this is going to be, it's just going to be a little bit different where we call from. This is going to be our balance. Or sorry, B13. Where am I getting B13 from? Oh, right here. Okay. Oh, duh. Sorry. This is going to be our mortgage payment minus our interest paid. I want, this is actually the same formula from above. This is another one that I want it to keep sliding down. When I'm in cell 14, I want it to call on B14 and D14. When I'm in cell 13, I want it to call on B13 and D13. I want it to keep sliding down, so I'm not going to do dollar signs. Okay. And then finally, our balance, similar to what we did on the last one, that's going to be equal to this previous month's balance minus the amount we just paid on principal. F12 minus E13. Now, what's great for us is I can take these cells and this pattern will continue for every month. So if I go here and paste it, you see my interest goes down a little bit, my principal goes down a little bit. All of the formulas are shifting down as I paste them, unless it was cells I didn't want to shift and they're not. So now I can do this all the way down, all the way to 360. And once I do that, we'll have our schedule done. Takes a while. Just got to make it down. It's actually faster on the iPad. You can just hold it down for a while. So I'm trying to make it all the way to 360. And we're going to finish just in the nick of time for the period. Okay, once I get to 360, I'm going to do this. And you see at the end of it all, I get down to a balance of basically 0. Okay, I'll tell you how I calculated these later, but it's really easy. I just did a sum of each of the rows above them. And then we see how much we ended up spending on our mortgage, how much we ended up spending on taxes and interest, how much we paid in interest, and how much we paid in principal. Okay, we'll continue to talk about this tomorrow, but we basically finished the hard part today. Tomorrow will be a much more independent and easier day.
Are those the only two things that we have to do is like the one worksheet and then the spreadsheet?
Say that again.
Spreadsheet and then that one worksheet that we did yesterday, are those the only two things that need to be done?
Yep. The rest of that project is it.